Okay, so as I did for episode 1, I've already posted my spoiler-free review and breakdown. So this video, I'm going to be spoilers out, with vague spoilers going through pretty much the entire book series. So if you haven't finished the series, I do not recommend watching this video. And as I said before, I do not plan to go through and pick out every single Easter egg and reference from the books. I'm just going to talk about and compare the things that were interesting to me. So, yeah. Let's get into it.
Let's be nerdy with. Let's be nerdy. Let's be nerdy. Let's be nerdy with. Let's be nerdy with. Let's be nerdy. Let's be nerdy with.
All right, this cold open is freaking amazing. The actor playing Valda he's chewing up the scenery in the best way possible. And I'm gonna mention his mustache again because I can't believe how much I hate his mustache. I hate his mustache almost as much as I hate the fact that he cuts off the hands of the Aes Sedai. Okay, let's talk about this whole hand cutting off thing. First of all, I'm gonna give myself all the kudos for calling this. I'm very, very proud. But comparing with the books, I do wonder where they're going to go with this. In the show, we see Moiraine use some very specific hand movements. Like when she channels, there's a lot of deliberateness and intention in how she moves. I know in the books, the Aes Sedai use their hands when they channel. And like, it's specific enough that they say you can tell who taught an Aes Sedai a specific weave by the hand movements that she uses. But we also know in the books that the Aiel don't do any of that. So I'm curious about this. Like, obviously, Valda cuts off their hands to stop them from channeling, but is this going to be a universal thing, or are they going to make it specific to the Aes Sedai, and then when we get to the Aiel, they're going to differentiate? I've actually changed my mind multiple times thinking this through, like, what I think they're going to do, so I honestly don't know. I'm very curious. What do you think? The next change that I would say that is very interesting to me, mainly because it proved a theory that I had wrong, was the whole high tower ferry sinking. I'm pretty sure they made this change in order to be able to explain the oaths and how they were binding as early as possible in the show, so that we would know to trust things that Moiraine said. Because this is something that in the books, actually, we never really fully understand, like for ages. We hear over and over again that Aes Sedai don't lie, but that you have to pay attention to because they're going to trick you with their words. But it takes a long time before we get confirmation that this is actually true. Aes Sedai can't lie. And we just have to take people's word for it. And in, most of us who've read the series, we know unreliable narrators, it's a big part of the series. Characters will state things as fact that are just later proved wrong. So anyway, they get this out of the way early, explain the three oaths and how they are binding, and also how the Aes Sedai work around them through this high tower thing. Moiraine even explains, some of the Aes Sedai wordery? trickery with words later on after their meeting with the White Cloaks. My theory, the one that was proven wrong, was that, earlier on in a video, I had a tinfoil hat theory, that scene that we see in one of the trailers where Moiraine is taking an oath. My theory was that in that scene, she is on trial for something, hence the oath, possibly taking responsibility for or being held responsible for the death of an Aes Sedai. My thought was that they were doing this because they needed to show early on that taking an oath on the oath rod is binding in order to prove the truth of the fact that an Aes Sedai can't lie. Oh, but okay, you know what? Now that I think about it, my theory still could hold some water because the whole unreliable narrator thing means that even though Moiraine has said and explained about Aes Sedai not being able to lie, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. Showing it to us later could confirm it for any viewers or anyone who doubted it, so my theory still kind of stands. We'll see. A very interesting lore change comes when Egwene is talking about the oaths, and she says that the Aes Sedai began taking the oaths in order to end Arthur Hawkwing's siege of the White Tower. I don't actually see any way that this could impact the story at all. I'm trying to think. I don't see any tendrils reaching out from that could actually affect the story. It's just like, it's a deep lore change. But it was interesting, and I'm curious to know why they changed it. It's fine. I'm not upset. I kind of want to know the why of it. The change to the dreams, like we only really saw one in this episode and it was very, very brief, but I am fine with this change because, to be honest, the dream sequences in Eye of the World are my least favorite part of the book. They go on forever and they're just confusing. I know they're meant to be confusing. They are dreams after all. I just don't enjoy them very much. So having them shortened in this way, totally cool with it. Changing rats to bats, also fine with me. I do have to say, though, and I meant to talk about this in my spoiler-free review, and I realized while editing that video that I forgot. So far, for me, the special effects for channeling, the prosthetic work with the Trollocs, the set design, oh my god, it's been blowing me out of the water. Like, it's amazing. But this, Fire Eyes, Ishi, I was not particularly impressed with this effect. Now, it's super brief, so maybe it was just the way that it was just, a quick flash or something, but it stood out to me. It's not that serious. It's not like a, deal breaker or anything, but it was just like, not particularly a fan of that effect. Now, something I did talk about in my spoiler-free review, but I'm gonna mention it again because it stands out so much to me. Rand's outburst to Moraine feels very unearned. She hasn't done enough for him to be this suspicious and this resentful of her, in my mind. He comes across as completely unreasonable. Like, if they had in the first episode, him and Tam have a conversation where Tam told him to be careful and suspicious of the Aes Sedai, or, I don't know, if we had heard more talk from trusted people, like trusted adults, about how they distrust the Aes Sedai, or maybe heard some of their false beliefs about the Aes Sedai, his outburst might make sense, but it just comes out of nowhere for me. She has done nothing to him for him to be feeling this angry and resentful. And in fact, she saved his dad's life. It bothers me. And then he turns on Egwene. Now, this one feels a bit less jarring because they did kind of break up. So, there could be some residual hurt and emotions there. But we saw him in the previous episode accept the fact that she was going to become a wisdom's apprentice, which would effectively end their relationship. And he accepted that with such grace. So the way he says here with such resentment and anger that she's already left him behind, it feels like a step backwards. Like he's taking personal offense at her life choice. When, like, yesterday, or, well, I think maybe a couple of days ago, whatever, he had understood that he needed to let her go. Now, people do vacillate in their emotions and opinions, and, emotions can run high in high-stress situations, and these guys are in a very high-stress situation. So I can sort of see this, but to be honest, it annoyed me. Not in a, this is a bad episode, or this is bad writing, just in a, Rand, she's allowed to want things that aren't you. Like, it's the same way it annoyed me in the books. It's just actually accentuated in the show. So, yeah. Okay, now let's get back to the White Cloaks. I am fascinated by this version of Bornhold. Bornhold. How do you pronounce his name? I don't know that I've ever said his name out loud. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm fascinated by him encouraging Moraine to go to an Aes Sedai for healing, while standing next to Volta, who has, like, the rings of the Aes Sedai that he's killed clipped to his belt. The contradiction is fascinating, and I am dying to know where they are going to go with this. The White Cloaks in the books are mostly, like, bumbling annoyances, pompous asses who throw their weight around and do nothing. But, they're all pretty much just very unlikable people. Even Bornhold, I don't know how to say his name. I've never said it before. But even him, he is one of the more reasonable White Cloaks. He's not a good person. Like, he's okay with allowing, Byre to kick around Perrin and Egwene, and, like, he's not a good person. But here, he seems like a decent man, standing next to and tolerating a monster. Given the very obviously intentional ecclesiastical nature of their costumes, and the way Valda says that line, what is it? It's like, the light is always with you, it needs no instruction, I think is what he says. The feeling I got from this was that Bornhold is like a religious person who has their own personal beliefs. They hold them very, very strongly, but they don't necessarily expect people who don't hold their beliefs to live according to their beliefs. Whereas Valda is the type of religious person who thinks that their own very specific and strongly held beliefs should govern everyone. Like, even those who don't necessarily hold to his beliefs. He, like, the feeling I had when he said that line, he reminded me of people who get offended at the phrase Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas. And they think everybody should say Merry Christmas, even non-religious people or people from different religions. Completely minor aside, but we also got another really cool shot of some ruins, like ruins of a bridge, like a highway bridge. I don't know. I love it. I love that they are not shying away from this part of the story. It would have been a very easy decision to not include that because it's not necessary really for the story, but I love that they are doing it. And yeah, like my nerdy little heart just swelled up when I saw that. Then, as if my heart wasn't happy enough, we get the Weep for Manetheren scene. And as I said in my spoiler-free breakdown, I like this scene more and more each time I see it. It is so, so good. I'm so glad they included it. I really, really didn't think we would get it, especially not this early on. I thought that the story of Manetheren might be revealed slowly over time, but just getting the story, it's really good. The song is incredible. I have been singing it for days. My one quibble with this scene, and I know that this is just a me thing, like this is my own personal issue. It's a pet peeve of mine when any show or movie does this. They will show a character tapping their foot, or in this case, patting their leg along to the rhythm, but they are not in rhythm. Like, okay, maybe just canonically Rand doesn't have rhythm, but this isn't just a Wheel of Time thing. It happens a lot and it bothers me. He doesn't tap in rhythm to the song. But that minor quibble aside, this scene is pretty much perfect, and it kind of makes me tear up now. I do wonder, and I sincerely hope that, like, if we're going to get more lyrics, I did think that we would hear the entire song in the credits. Like, when this happened and the song was so short, I thought, oh, I'll probably hear more of it later, but we didn't. Perrin and the Wolves. I like what we're getting here. I do still wonder if we're going to get a mentor, but so far, not much to say, really. I like this introduction and, this interaction with the wolves. I'll say it again. Marcus Rutherford is doing amazing work. He really is, he just is Perrin. A big change happened here with Shadar Logoth, or Shadar Logoth. I gotta get used to how they say that. That one's gonna take me a minute. While we do see a sort of shadow of a person when Matt is wandering about in the cursed city, we didn't get a character named Mordeth. Mordeth, also in the story that Lan told, wasn't a part of the fall of Eredal. And the sin of Eredal seems to be more their selfishness, their refusal to help others, their isolationist nature. Instead of how they turned their fight for the light, how it became so extreme and twisted that it became a new form of evil. I do have to admit, I prefer the mythos in the books. I like the idea that striving for the light, for the side of good, if taken to such a level, can become evil. I loved that in the books. But I think I do understand changing this for the show. It's simplified and more straightforward for new viewers, so I get that. The evil of Shadar Logoth, or Shadar Logoth, whatever, is still there, and it's still different from the evil of the Dark One, but it's a different form of evil than in the books. There still, though, could be some sort of link between whatever is happening in Shadar Logoth and Padan Fain. In the first episode, when Padan Fain is entering the Two Rivers on his peddler's wagon, sorry, I couldn't remember the word, we see that shot of him entering overlapped with the shot of a fade, and the sound is overlapped as well with Padan Fain whistling. And we actually hear that whistling here in Shadar Logoth, like right before Matt wakes up. The whistling seems to sort of be a presence there, maybe luring Matt. So I think they are still setting up a link here. It's going to be different from what's in the books, but it's still there, and it's cool. I'm glad to see that. I was a little afraid that they wouldn't do that when we didn't see Mordeth in the episode, but on rewatch, when I heard that whistling, I was like, okay, there's going to be a link. I'm very glad to see this because, to be honest, I'm kind of hoping that the show does more with Padan Fain, especially later on, than what happened in the books, because I do feel like he kind of just dropped out of the picture and then shows up. And I don't know. I think he could be a really good through character because he's such an interesting wild card. And it's kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say the word disappointing, but it is. Like that he just sort of vanishes for a chunk of the books. The change to what Mashadar looks like, I've already talked about. Just to say again, I think it looks cool. I like it a lot. A neat detail that I really loved is that Mandarb and Aldib were the only two horses that didn't run away. Like, who knows what these two horses have seen during their travels with Maureen and Lan, and you know that Lan and Maureen have trained them to remain calm in high-stress situations. So, this was a small detail, but I really liked it. And then Nynaeve shows up, and I lose all objectivity and all sense because, damn, my girl is holding a Trolloc blade. I think. I mean, we see it in the next episode, I think, how she gets that blade, but it could be not a Trolloc blade, but if you look at it, like it's pitted and it's jagged, it doesn't look like a human sword. I'm pretty sure she just kept the Trolloc blade and is holding that to Lan's neck. It's, oh God, it's so good. She's fierce and protective and it's incredible and I can't really think of anything else to say except that it's awesome. Oh, okay, but as much as I really was hoping to hear more of Weepform and Etherin during the credits, when Mashiara started playing, I kind of lost it. Like, Nynaeve is standing there with a Trolloc blade to Lan's neck, and they play a song called Lost Love. Just nice. Nicely done, show. Well done. And so yeah, that's it. Those are my spoiler-full thoughts on episode 2. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And you can go all spoilers out because this video is full spoilers. And yeah, if you want to talk about this more, you can always come join my Discord. And if you like my videos, like my content, you can check out my Patreon. Love my patrons. You guys really do. Your support means so much to me. So with that, I will end this here. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!